Well, welcome everyone to Moon in the third house episode. And what happens when Moon is in your third house? Well, first of all, what is third house? Third house represents your siblings, represents your neighbors and your close relatives. It represents your friends, like close network circle. Third house is a house of your courage, your self efforts. Okay, it shows how much courage one has. Third house is a house of writing, skills by hand. This is why it's a house of writing, because you write with your hand. Third house also represents media, because third house is communication. It can be marketing, it can be sales, it can be media, like a news anchor, journalist, okay, somebody who out there communicates with people and tells them local information, like your local news anchor. Okay, and in a way it kind of goes parallel with the fifth house of entertainment and cinema, because the dynamics of media has changed. Like YouTube, what I'm doing is in a way is considered third house and fifth house both, because I'm using a tool and a skill of communication, and yet at the same time I use the creativity of the fifth house to present this thing to you. Okay, so here when Moon comes in, your emotions, okay, your mother, that Moon represents, it's your ambience, it's your emotional reaction to things around you. Well, here you have an emotional attachment with your siblings and your close neighbors. You feel emotionally balanced when you are communicating with your siblings. But remember, here your mind is unbalanced, your mind is scattered. And that's because fourth house is a house of comforts, house of mental peace. And any house 12th from itself becomes a loss of that house, because 12th house originally is known as the houses of losses, okay, or wasteful spending. And so each house has its 12th house. So third house is 12th from the fourth house. So it kind of represents discomfort of the mind, but that's actually not really true. What it simply represents is that the moon now has Mercurian energy, and since mythologically Mercury hates moon, he said, that's it, I'm going to take your mental peace away, I'm going to take your grounded level away, and I'm going to show you all sorts of different things all around you. But guess what? In this day and age, having the Mercurian mind is what is necessary, because now a person doesn't really have one profession, they have many professions. So what this shows is that this person's mind is everywhere. They're doing 10 different things at a time, because third house is originally the house of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. Okay, and I've already explained what Gemini is. I mean, it's that scattered mind, but it's also a very intellectual and intelligent mind. Like, you're able to have knowledge of all the small things around you. So when you go to a party and you have discussion, whether about astrology, whether about the universe and cosmology, whether about stock market or politics, you just have your hands everywhere. And this is what it simply means, that the mind is kind of scattered. Your mental peace, which is just about one thing that moons like to have, now moon is like everywhere else. So in a way, it's a good and bad thing, but mostly to be an entrepreneur, to be a businessman, to be somebody in marketing, creativity, you need that kind of eccentric mind. Okay. And so this kind of very strongly signifies somebody who's a writer, skill of writing, skill of communicating through writing, shows strongly shows. But the sign that moon is placed in shows what kind of writing. Like in Sagittarius, it'll write about like religious text and religious books, and in Cancer it may write about emotional novels, or in Capricorn it may write books on finances or books related regarding structures in life. So all that dynamic happens, but mainly very good writers come from the third house. Third house also make these people very good creative people as far as like marketing goes and salesmanship goes, when they're, because their emotional mind and their mindset is now everything about the third house. So they love that part. They love selling to people. They love marketing their product. They love communicating with people. And the mother is very communicative. Like, mother would be very talkative, kind of a mother with this kind of placement. So from the third house, moon aspects the ninth house of higher belief, wisdom, philosophical learning, your teachers, your gurus, your father's teaching, your long distance travel, your pilgrimages are seen from the ninth house. Okay, and ninth house is just the house of following the law. It's the God written law or man written law. So when Moon is in the third house, he's inclined towards having those interests. He wants to learn. He wants to learn the higher belief, higher wisdom, because through that, Moon in the third house can do the third house things. Like if it's a writer, and a writer wants to know more about his subject, so he has to learn more. He has to go to gurus. He has to look for teachers. He has to learn about the subject that he's writing about. So if a writer is writing about DNA, he's going to go learn about DNA. Or when it comes to travel, if you're as a writer or a storyteller is writing a book and suddenly you want to put a scene in Rio de Janeiro, well, guess what? If you went to Rio de Janeiro to travel from US, you can suddenly be like, oh my God, yes, I was at this cafe on the street on Rio de Janeiro and it was so romantic and it was raining. Why don't I put that scene there? And so they use that travel, that curiosity to travel and learn different culture, learn different things to implement that into their work. So these are very highly intelligent people. So it doesn't mean that their mind is like, at discomfort. No, the mind is just curious. It becomes active, where a Moon in the fourth house is very calm and subtle and they do things with patience. They do things, through their true emotions, where in Gemini, or in the third house, sorry, mind is just active. He just wants to know what's going on all around it. And so that's what it means, that it just becomes at a discomfort level. But remember, anything from the Moon is considered a secondary ascendant, meaning that it's your internal mind, how your internal mindset is. So you know how you get your full horoscope in Vedic astrology and you see the Moon Rashi chart? That simply means that it's how you really think inside about your life. Not what ascendant is doing to your life, but what you think. So seventh aspect of the Moon is directly towards the seventh house of marriage, of legal partnerships, of your husband or wife. So these people look for somebody who is a father figure, who is a teacher, somebody who can provide them with wisdom and knowledge and philosophy, help them travel around the world, expand their mind. So no matter if it's a guy or girl, they're looking for that ultimate, that Jupiterian person who has all the knowledge in the world, because they are going to spend so much time with them that they want to be able to communicate and learn something more intellectual. Okay, so Gemini and Sagittarius, even though Sagittarius is a very much higher learning mind, but Gemini has that curiosity to learn that. The third house has that curiosity to learn that ninth house things. And so it wants to learn. So it wants to look for a spouse of those things. Okay. And then from the Moon, the sixth and eighth house become the 10th house and the eighth house when Moon is in the third house. So sixth from the Moon and eighth from the Moon become an obstacle and an unknown event scenario. So their career has this ups and downs. Okay, and they can, because they're one of those people who get bored with things really quickly. Okay, they want to just go here, go do this, go do that. They want to have like 10 different things going. So usually what happens is, due to their scattered mind, they not able to last at a job and do a routine work, that require at a job. So they suddenly either get fired or they quit because they're bored. And so their career becomes that eighth house unknown events, that sudden events. Okay. And then the sixth house, on the sixth from the Moon, which is the eighth house, becomes a house of obstacles, meaning that the spouse's joint assets, the married life, dealing with in-laws, dealing with spouse's family, dealing with joint taxes, okay, becomes that area of, they feel like it's holding them back in doing their creative things that they want to do, in being that media or being a writer, being that marketing director that they are, that creative person feels that this part of life is kind of restricts them. So internally they think that, even though that may not be the situation, but the mind is quite screwed up, and this is why we're thinking one thing and doing one thing, thinking one thing, experiencing one thing. Okay, so this is how you look at the moons in through houses. Okay, So guys, this is my analysis of moon in the third house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe above. And if you want to know more about where your moon is placed and where your other planetary placements are, check out the link below. Check out my book there, Astrology at the Speed of Light. And when you get the book, I will send you the link to look at your own chart. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.